Hi, everybody. Miles Ward here. We're back with Cloud and Clear Part 2 with the inimitable Juan Orlandini. I can't wait for you to see the second half. Cheers. So let's talk about, we started at pragmatic. So let's get back there. It's 2024 and the world is changing rapidly, right? You've got every hardware business under the sun, every software business under the sun. They're looking at the economics of the way they deliver value, and the playing field is upset. There is all new changes, and we got a lot of people that are trying to understand best approaches to find, maybe more efficient systems than they currently have, or how to figure out how to stay as efficiently as they currently are as prices are going up and changes are happening left and right. Can you talk a little about that exploration process, how we're supporting customers think through cost efficiency for their systems, and how that ties into this hybrid cloud and multi-cloud discussion?
There's the costs and efficiencies that you can drive through the development and instantiation of the process in the very beginning. So how do you ideate? How do you make sure that this has actually got a business case that is actually going to fund the investments and all those other things? For more mature products that are further in their development life cycle, you can start then looking at, hey, is there infrastructure changes that I can make either at the software layers, at the cloud level, or if you're running it on an on-premises or hybrid model, heck, you could do things like deduping storage. That's a good and efficient thing, or new compute infrastructure that is more efficient, more cores per CPU, that is liquid cooled and drives lower consumption. You get charged less, or you pay less for it, or whatever, right? So there's everything from the app development cycle all the way down to what that stuff actually ultimately ends up running on. And then, oh, by the way, not all cloud providers are built the same, or charge you the same, or measure you the same way. So you might want to be looking at like, hey, it costs me X to run this workload on this cloud provider. It will cost me X minus 2, or whatever the number is on this cloud provider. Does it make sense for me for that differential in cost to move it over, plus the overhead associated with learning and managing and operating in that model, right? So all of those things factor in, and that's, it's a rich and deep subject, right? So we're very deeply, keenly aware that at the end of the day, every organization has only got this much money and this much desire, right? Everybody does, and we got to make that delta smaller and try to make sure that at least we can get something like this, right?
I think it's one of the, hardest to anticipate how big the complexity hurdle is for this kind of analysis and comparison and arriving at a best recommendation for customers. I built the pricing calculator for Google Cloud, so I'm personally familiar with the 86,000 distinct SKUs that make up the GCP platform. AWS is up over 250,000 SKUs. Azure is in the hundreds of thousands. So if you're actually trying to, there's no such thing as apples to apples, and it's not like apples to oranges. It's like apples to pickles, right? They're not even on the same flavor profile. Sometimes the pricing models are radically different. And so getting to real clear comparisons is not, there are a bunch of tools that sort of start at this stuff, but they kind of get to compute and end there. And we found a lot of places where, a more nuanced understanding of the performance characteristics of the individual services, especially the more managed services, can have really outsized effects. I remember a project that we did where, the proof point to get started was, identical system benchmarking. They were running Hadoop. We used Google's Dataproc, which is also just Hadoop. And they got to 9.76% more price efficient on GCP for the specifics of their workload. They're like, that's great. I want that 9% return. Marvelous. We migrate them across and then promptly move the most sort of resource consuming queries into BigQuery, where their product is now 11 times faster than it was before. So
wow.
No one, nobody did the benchmark of figuring out which ones ought to be in BigQuery and take advantage of the columnar store there that makes it so that a bunch of these things are a lot faster. But I think they probably would have said yes to this migration like a lot earlier if somebody said it was got to be 11 times faster. So those are the kinds of places where, we know that the expertise for insight in data center and all the work in Azure, all the depth on the AWS side, for our work on the GCP side, just brings a more rich, more complete set of skills to have that pragmatic evaluation, to think thoughtfully about what is the very best constellation of resources and services and management to make it so that customers get to the right outcome. When we're building those kinds of relationships, right, top of mind for me certainly is places when you can make at least one of the components go from costing something to costing nothing, right? Open source software is magical stuff. And certainly I think we're also looking at a spot where some of these things are moving far enough forward on the maturity curve that they really become very straightforward to operate. What are some examples that you've seen where customers have gotten big, not sort of infrastructure cost or rationalization of their footprint, but I think one of the largest costs, the operational overhead, the staff time, the delays associated with new changes, new building blocks. What tools are you finding useful as the landscape changes?
So, enumerating the tools themselves is probably not a good exercise because there's a number of them that are out there. All right. I think the more important part to talk about is the practices and arts that you create inside of your organization. And one of the practices and arts that has really returned huge investment, there's others, is the FinOps side of the house. All right. And FinOps as an art, because it is still art, it's black magic and all sorts of sorcery because of the differences in how things operate and all that other stuff, right? The value in that is that it gives you fiscal responsibility for the decisions that you're making in your cloud decisions, right? Far too many times, us as developers, we're given a task and we go, I know this tool and I know that tool, and if I glue them together with a little bit of code, it's going to solve that problem. Well, as developers, do we care if this tool and that tool combined together is all of a sudden $1 million a month? No, not really, because they give me a task to solve a problem. The FinOps team, with their practices, is the pragmatic approach at solving that problem, and also giving them the guidance and the metrics and the ongoing measurement to justify both the investments and the return that you get from those investments. All right. So we've deliberately focused on helping organizations onboard FinOps as a practice and a culture that then also supports the tooling, or is fed by the tooling that supports all of that stuff, so that you can make these rational decisions on that side of the house. So, and are there tools for all of this? Absolutely. Are the tools awesome? Yes, but only if you have them in the right context and the right processes, because there's a lot of stuff that happens on that side of the house.
I'm proud to hear you say that. I sat on the governing board of the FinOps Foundation with J.R. Storment to help define how this whole process works. And the very first thing I remember sitting with him, he's the founder of Cloudability, which is one of the earliest cloud cost control tools. And he's like, how have you done this before? And I go, well, I'll tell you how I've failed at it. Sending architects to try to learn how to do accounting. And he's like, yeah, that doesn't work. I go, I know it totally doesn't work. So what we would do is grab accountants, grab some FP&A folks, and cram cloud in between their ears for a couple of days. Then you don't have to know how to set a firewall rule or screw around with the sort of vagaries of configuration on data. No. Just understanding the sort of weirdness of the pricing calculator and the structures of how committed use discounts work, how reserved instances on AWS work, how savings plans work. Like all these machines are frankly fairly daunting to most of the developers that I talk to. They don't want to do this stuff. I'll say another critical.
It's actually
discipline.
Detrimental to their work to do that stuff.
Oh yeah, no,
I don't want my developers thinking about that at all. I want them to solve the problem. I have other people that are brilliant at understanding the financial metrics and actually operating that side of the house, right? And then giving constraints. And here's the amazing thing about us developer types, right? Is we can solve a problem with any given set of constraints. That's what we do for a living, right? Honestly, right? So if you give me unfettered access to all the tools, I'm going to find the best tool I possibly can, or I'm going to use the one that's the most familiar to me that I know will solve the problem. All right. But if I constrain me to, hey, us decided that this set of tools, and now there's a whole practice in art and all of that around platform engineering, IDPs, DevX, and there's lots of terms for this thing, where you are literally saying, hey, this is the golden path. This is the constrained path that if you operate under, we know that it's going to be measured appropriately, tooled appropriately. We can help you on board. We'll give you the discoverability that you need for the ownership of all the different things and all of that stuff, right? And then we actually accelerate the journey to feature development because we're constraining your capabilities, but we're making those capabilities easier and better for you to consume and discover. And that acceleration is fantastic, right? But that's because you gave constraints, right? Me as a nerd, I love learning all the new tools. I want to try all the new tools. Me as a business person, I don't like that many tools because there's a lot of crap that comes with them, you know?
I'll say another discipline we've found very effective, if FinOps is trying to, create the connective tissue between your finance organization and your IT organization, the DORA work, DevOps Research Association, who's done this incredible analysis of all of the different practices inside of development teams as you do the moment of glory of the move from code to production. That handoff and all of the cultural structures around it, all of the sort of best practices there. They have a set of 33 capabilities, a set of 4 core measures that you use, and the relative performance of development teams that operate following this guidance in comparison to the ones who do not it's not 5. It's obnoxious to even state the number because they've done this survey so many times and they keep coming back to it. It's about 4,000 times faster. And you're going well, that's not possible. No dev teams are 4,000 times. I've heard of 10x developers, but not 4,000x developers. That's ridiculous. But it proves itself out over and over and over again. If you can get the primitives in place that enable the kind of cloud native development that you were talking about, and get the culture structures right so that developers feel safe pursuing innovation, I think you can create really incredible outcomes. So you put those two practices, DORA and FinOps, into a business, and the change rate is just lunacy. Off they go to the races.
Culture eats strategy for lunch is the old saying, right? 100%. Right. So you absolutely have to put that in place. And that's actually one of the things that we're excited about. At Insight, we have some agile coaches and an agile practice that is really focused around how to implement that change around agile. And agile isn't a thing, right? It's not like all of a sudden you can do agile. You actually have to live and breathe and culture agile, right? And that's cross-functional, cross-organization, not just the technical guys, not just the FinOps guys, not just the OCM folks. There's all these things, right? And that's actually one of those things that is absolutely part of the DORA thing is to make sure that you're implementing this holistically. And if you can, again, you get these huge accelerations and they're fantastic, but it can be hard and daunting at first. You're getting the sense that I like using analogies, right? What's the old analogy about an elephant? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So there's some pragmatic things that we can do to help clients get on that journey as well. So it's good.
In pursuit of that journey, right? I mean, we start with companies that are, feel like they're at the 9th inning and they're doing everything right. We're just trying to sort of help, with care and feeding and making people happy. And you've got folks that haven't even started that, they don't have putting their shoes on yet, right? They're right at the beginning of the race. What, for companies at all the different sort of points in that spectrum, how do they get started? What's the easiest way to get engaged? What's the sort of best points of connection into the inside side of the house? I can certainly answer on the SADA side.
It's actually kind of hard to explain where we can help because we help across so much, right? We've helped clients on everything from buying screen protectors at scale, which we can do, all right? And I'm not exaggerating, by the way, all the way through massive organizations with hundreds of millions of dollars of cloud spend and helping them optimize that stuff. So depending on your journey, your organization, and all that, Insight's more than likely to have a team that can help you get started on the process of us helping you drive efficiencies, optimize consumption, faster time to acceleration. We briefly mentioned AI. It wouldn't be 2024 if we didn't include that across the board, right? We have practices that are focused on Gen AI and more traditional ML ops and not ML ops, ML development, in addition to ML ops and all that other stuff. So just tell us if you have a problem. Happy to help you. We're more than likely can. And if it's something as simple as I need better management of my devices, we can do that. If I need, hey, I want to get this bigger picture across a strategy of I'm going through an M&A exercise and I need to have somebody that can help me make sure that integration goes as well as it can, we can do that as well. All right. I'll tell you our superpowers. It really boils down to three. We build the best infrastructure, and infrastructure for us is everything from the compute, storage, networking, and all those other things, but it's also the software layers that sit on top of it. So your DevOps pipelines, so the CI/CD pipelines, we can do that, and then all those things. We secure things, everything from coding and all the way down through security and making sure that your data is secure. And then the third superpower that we have is a modern app and data integration. All right. So if you think about, hey, I need to write a modern application and optimize it for the next future state, whatever that is, wherever that happens to sit, we can help you through all of those things. So massive stuff underneath the covers, underneath all of those managed services, implementation services, deployment services, all sorts of stuff. But that's the superpowers that we have underneath the covers.
Well, that's awesome. Juan, I want to be the first to say thank you for participating. This is, I think, of great value to our mutual customers and our prospects. There's a lot that's going to happen here in 2024. I'm excited to be on that journey together with you. And for folks in the audience, Juan's not super complicated to get a hold of. Neither am I. It's SADA.com, Insight.com. They're very useful websites. So looking forward to reaching out and talking to as many of you as we can. And to your questions, feel free to put that stuff into the comments on our videos. And looking forward to seeing you on the next Cloud and Clear episode. Juan, anything you want to leave the audience with, stuff they should take away?
Thank you again for having me on here. I'm super excited about having Miles work in the office of the CTO and me learning as much as I can from him. The little wisdom I can, I'm happy to share it with him. And for the folks in the audience, as Miles said, just shoot me a message. Happy to talk to you or connect you with the right people.
Awesome. Everybody, thank you so much for taking the time. And Juan, thanks again. Thanks all. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @Cloud and Clear and our website, SADA.com.